Effects of PBIS check-in, check-out intervention on student behavior. The problem this study addressed is poor student classroom behavior. The purpose of the study was to evaluate the impact of academic achievement on student classroom behavior. This study intended to answer the question, what impact does academic achievement have on student classroom behavior? Data was gathered from 3 sources: STAR Math Proficiency Reports, STAR Reading Proficiency Reports, and the Classroom Behavior Binder. Graph 1 shows student proficiency based on the Renaissance Learning STAR Math Standardized Assessment completed in December of 2019. Of the 21 students tested, 9% needed urgent intervention, meaning that their percentile ranking was less than 45% of the nationwide average. 10% of the students were identified to be on watch because the students scored less than the benchmark, which is 65% of the national average. And 19% of the students were on target because the students met the benchmark goal of 65% but did not exceed 90%. 62% of the students were identified as extension because the students scored in the higher than 90% range and required above grade level activities to continue to grow. This data shows that a large group of students have already mastered grade level math standards and required more in-depth and challenging activities in order to gain and maintain their attention. Graph 2 displays student proficiency based on the Renaissance Learning STAR Reading Assessment, also completed in December of 2019. Of the 21 students tested, 24% were identified to need urgent intervention because their percentile ranking was less than 45% of the nationwide average. 5% of the students were placed on watch because the students did not meet the 65% benchmark goal, and 57% of the students scored on target, meeting the benchmark goal but not exceeding 90%. 14% of the students scored above 90% and required extension lessons above grade level in order to continue to grow. This data shows that a large group of students had already mastered grade level reading standards and needed more in-depth and challenging activities in order to gain and maintain their attention. Graph 3 displays the behavior occurrences based on the class's behavior binder during the second quarter of the 2019-2020 school year. This data was collected daily. Students who continued to make poor behavior choices despite an initial warning were required to sign the behavior binder in addition to an appropriate and logical consequence for their actions. 62% of the students signed the binder less than 5 times during the data collection period, and 5% of the students signed the binder between 5 and 10 times. 5% of the students signed the binder 10 to 15 times, and 28% of the students signed the binder greater than 15 times. This data shows that while many of the students maintained positive behavior, about a third of the population habitually made poor behavior choices. Graph 4 compiles all of the data onto one chart. It shows both of the percentile ranking scores from STAR Math and STAR Reading assessments completed in December 2019, alongside the behavior occurrences from the same time frame. The graph also compares the information for each student, denoted by the initials alongside the x-axis. Of the 7 students with a high number of behavior occurrences, greater than 10, 5 students scored in the extension range on either the STAR Math assessment or the STAR Reading assessment. The other 2 students scored below the benchmark on either the STAR Math assessment or the STAR Reading assessment. This pattern points to a connection between academic achievement and behavior. HC Elementary is located in a predominantly affluent suburb and one of the state's largest cities. The school population consists of 86% Caucasian students, 10% African American students, and 4% Asian students. 8% of students live outside the school zone and have transferred to the school through a majority to minority program. Approximately 5% of students receive free and reduced lunch. The school has a high level of community involvement and an active parent-teacher association. As the study was based on specific students in need of behavior support, purposeful sampling was conducted based on gathered behavior data. The sample of students included all fourth grade students at HC Elementary School who had 10 or more recurrent behavior incidences. The sample consisted of 2 female Caucasian participants, 1 male African American participant, 2 male Caucasian participants, and all the participants were 9 or 10 years of age. The study used a mixed research methodology, retrieving qualitative data from teacher observations and student questionnaires, alongside with quantitative data from Renaissance Learning's growth reports for STAR Math and STAR Reading assessments. The classroom teacher was required to administer the STAR test to establish academic proficiency at the beginning of the study and academic gains at the end of the study. The school district provided both the computers and the access to the STAR Reading and Math assessments, which were completed online. This data determined if the participants with increased behavior incidences scored above or below grade level in either reading or math. The mentor teacher was selected based on staff members who have a prior relationship with the participants. This critical role was necessary as the Positive Behavior Intervention Supports, or PBIS, Tier 2 check-in, check-out, requires a trusted adult to frequently model and support good behavior choices to their assigned participants. School resources were used to log and copy the check-in, check-out intervention logs. These logs serve to provide a means for participants and mentors to evaluate behaviors, set behavior goals, and daily document participant behaviors. At the beginning of the study, participants completed the STAR Reading and Math assessments to determine academic achievement. The researcher also gathered data from Classroom Behavior Binder to determine frequency of behavior occurrences. According to the gathered data, 1/3 of the fourth grade students display frequent incidences of negative behavior, and data showed a correlation between these students and below or above grade level academic achievement. The next step was to meet with the parents to explain the process and to gain parental permission. Step 3, the PBIS Tier 1 instruction. The mentor teacher explicitly taught and modeled classroom behavior expectations and rewarded students with a PBIS ticket for displaying positive behavior. These tickets were used as currency to purchase special privileges such as lunch with a friend or free time on the computer. Step 4, the PBIS Tier 2 check-in, check-out intervention. The mentor teacher facilitated the intervention and met with each participant each morning to establish a behavior goal and reward for reaching the goal. The participants and mentor evaluated the participants' behavior 4 times a day, and the mentor guided and encouraged the participants as necessary. After the intervention period, participants completed the STAR Reading and Math assessments again, and this data was examined to determine academic gains, and behavior binder data was examined to assess the impact of the intervention method. The STAR Reading and Math assessments are products of Renaissance Learning. Renaissance Learning is an educational software and analytics company trusted by state boards of education across the country, including the Alabama Board of Education. Because the assessments are adaptive to student academic process, the reports generated by these assessments accurately depict the participants' academic achievement. In order to prevent differentiation between student observations, the same mentor teacher worked with all participants. The mentor teacher received in-depth instruction in PBIS Tier 1 and Tier 2 procedures and best practices. Additionally, each participant used the same check-in, check-out intervention log to control any threats of validity to the study. Before the study began, researchers met with the participants and parents to obtain permission to conduct the study and explain the procedure of the study, along with the participants' rights. The participants remained in the classroom during check-ins, fully participated in regular classroom activities, and conferred with the mentor in private, thus protecting the participants from harm and the participants' right to confidentiality. Data was reported using only the students' initials, further protecting their identities and privacy. The Tier 2 PBIS intervention check-in, check-out is designed to set small behavior goals for the participants to work towards throughout the school day. After 6 weeks implementing this intervention, participants were more aware of their own behaviors and adapted strategies that helped them to take control of their actions. A decrease in behavior occurrences recorded in the behavior binder, along with an appropriate increase on STAR testing data, points to student achievement growth. The check-in, check-out intervention proved to be a great resource for correcting student behavior occurrences. Unfortunately, a few weeks after the study concluded, some of the participants needed to return to the intervention. With this in mind, in the future, I would implement a more gradual release from the intervention. For example, the participants can move from checking in 4 times a day to 2 times, and then perhaps they would be ready to check in only once a day. Additional research needs to be conducted to discover how to apply concepts of PBIS to a virtual learning classroom.